Please, how many more minutes do you intend to allow? I think you're muted. You're muted. Okay.
All right. So I'll just begin right now. It's
Okay.
5 minutes past the hour of 6 p.m. All right. Good evening, everybody, and welcome from wherever you're joining us. It has truly been 2 weeks, 2 weeks of immersive learning from individuals who have gone ahead of us. As we learn from our seniors on how to tackle the bar final questions and how to prepare to enter the job market and to make applications and stand out. We have had the best graduating students from different years speak to us, as well as individuals who have excelled in their legal careers over the years. Today is the grand finale, and it's a mix of nostalgia. I've been really happy this past week listening to our seniors in the legal profession. And I am happy that we're coming to the end of it, which means that you have the time to focus on your back finals coming up in a couple of weeks. So I want to especially thank the NBA-ICLE for this awesome opportunity for the law students across the different campuses. So tonight we have Mr. Oluwa Tobiloba Oladepo and Mr. Kenneth Opo who will be taking the session. But before we do that, before we get into that, we have Mr. Tobena Irojikwe, who is the convener of this program. So very briefly. I would like to read out his citation before I yield the floor to him to speak to us. So Mr. Tobena Erojikwe is a partner with the Law Crest LLP, a full-service commercial law firm based in Lagos, and heads its energy, finance, and major projects team. He holds an LLB Honors degree from the University of Nigeria, Nsukka, and was called to the Nigerian bar in 2000. He was admitted as a solicitor of the Supreme Court of England and Wales in 2004. He also holds an LLM in corporate finance law from the University of Westminster. He's over 20 years of legal practice, 10 of which was spent in England. He has held multiple positions and played significant roles, including senior solicitor, Regeneration London Borough of Barnet, legal advisor to the London Borough of Barnet Urban Regeneration Board, legal advisor, Mill Hill East Urban Regeneration Board, and legal advisor, London Borough of Barnet Pension Board. In the last 10 years, Vena has been involved in groundbreaking energy, PPP projects, and corporate finance transactions in Nigeria, and is listed as a leading energy and natural resources expert by Who's Who Legal, the world's leading legal directory. He led the team of the Law Crest LLP that won the IFLR 1000 Restructuring Deal of the Year for Sub-Saharan Africa in 2020. He is currently a member of the National Judicial Council and very recently served on the Enugu State Government Transition Committee. He is the chairman of the governing board of the Institute of Continuing Legal Education of Nigeria Bar Association. He has been a member of the National Executive Council of the NBA since 2018 and was the chairman of the Technical Committee on Conference Planning of the AGC 2022. He has served in various committees of the NBA, the General Purposes Committee, the Legal Education Committee, and the Finance Committee. He was also the chairman of the Policy Development and Project Implementation Team during the Olumide Abadas administration of the NBA. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to welcome Mr. Tobena Irojikwe. The floor is yours, sir.
I think you just set me up over there. I wasn't expecting you to read any citation of me because I really don't own the floor today, but thank you nevertheless for that very kind introduction. First of all, I'm very grateful to everyone today. I can see that we don't have the numbers that we had yesterday and the day before, but I know this must be down to the fact that it's the last day and people are preparing for their exams, but I hope that people truly join in today because we have some very great legal practitioners in our midst today, including Oladepo and my good friend Kenneth Opo, who's joined us all the way from Abidjan. I'll encourage all the participants to pay attention and to try and learn as much as they can from today's session. I am particularly delighted about this initiative of the NBA-ICLE, not least because of the fact that this session has been wholly put together by very young colleagues of ours who recently left the Nigerian law school and who approached me about this initiative on the basis that they had wished themselves that they had some of the students who had performed or predecessors who performed excellently, tutor them or give them hints on how to go about their studies and their exams during their time at the law school. So I'm grateful about this initiative and for the effort that the team has put into this. I'm grateful to Chineku, who has largely driven this initiative. We also have Oji Chukoi, Joshua Chizoma, who is here with us today, Rex Owadoka, Ufoma Onyechi, Chijioke Okomado, Susan Ome, who was here with us yesterday, I think she's joined in too today, Abo Naya, and Kosi Osele, and indeed to all the other members of this team who have seen us through this period. Thank you very much. We are grateful, and please do be rest assured that we'll call you very soon. Chine, could you have your hands raised? Okay, so it's my pleasure to welcome you all today to today's session, and I hope that you all enjoy this session and take the benefits of the session. I'll only make the point that everyone in life needs a mentor, everyone in life needs a coach, and every endeavor in life has an approach and a technique. Indeed, what I expect today is that the facilitators today would point you to basic techniques required to do well and excel in your exams, and also to techniques required to start out a career in legal practice. And I know that second arm will be handled by Kenneth Okwo. I mean, I can't think of a better person to discuss this topic than my friend Kenneth, who has been there, done that. I mean, I'm sure you're going to all listen to his CV, but just to mention that he's been an academic, he's lectured at the law school, he's worked at Templas, he's gone on to work with the African Development Bank now in Abidjan. He's had a very exciting academic career to Harvard and Oxford and Cambridge. And so I think there's a lot to pick up from today's session. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you, Oladepo, for accepting to facilitate the first session today. And then I'll yield the floor back then to Chizoma. Chizoma, thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much, sir. And without further ado, we'll just get right to the first session. So the first session today would have Oluwatobiloba Joseph Oladepo, who will be taking us on how to prepare for the bar finals. So I'll just read his citation before I yield the floor to him. Oluwatobiloba Joseph Oladepo is a graduate of the University of Ilorin. In 2021, he participated in the Law et al. Scholarship Program and was awarded a full scholarship. He proceeded to the Nigerian Law School Lagos campus, where he graduated with a first class and was awarded the Director General's Prize for attaining a first class and Chief Ernest Shoneko's Prize for the third best graduating student in property law practice. He is currently a trainee associate at Udodoma and Bello Osagi, where his enthusiasm for the legal profession shines through. Since joining the firm, he has worked with the energy and infrastructure, intellectual property, and dispute resolution teams, contributing his expertise to complex legal matters. He is poised to continue making significant strides in the legal profession while nurturing his passions and interests. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to welcome Oluwatobiloba Joseph Oladepo to handle this session. Mr. Oladepo, the floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. Please, can you confirm if you can hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you.
Oh, so sorry, I'm having connectivity issues accessing with my video, but I'll try to join you if that is fine later on. Thank you very much. So, thank you very much, Shizoma, for the kind welcome, and thank you to Mr. Erojipe for this kind initiative. It is very well my pleasure to speak on this topic. And when I heard about the initiative, I was so excited because I've always wanted to give back to to the Nigerian law school students. And thank you again for this platform. So for today's topic, I will be speaking to 5 things because I'm very mindful of time, and I would want us to cover as much as we can, and also open the floor to students that questions. Please, again, whenever you're unable to hear me because of my network, please just signify so I can go back or something. Is that fine?
Yes, that is fine. Please, I'll let you know.
Thank you very much. Okay, so the first thing I'll be talking about today on this topic is revisions. Now, I cannot overemphasize the fact that, the point about how important it is to, to revise notes, to revise your past questions, to revise your draft at this time. Given the short period we have towards exams, I think what should be your priority right now for students that are looking into excelling at the exams is to revise, basically. Revising your notes, again, emphasis on your class notes. These are like the top priority, your class notes. Revising your class notes, your past questions. We've seen in multiple years how they repeat a lot of questions. So although you've been reading since the day one, you also need to continue. It's a continuous process right until you write that exam and then move on to the next exam. So you need to continually revise your past questions, your drafts. Yes, you need to revise your draft to make your revisions easier for your draft. You can imbibe the habit of turning some drafts into voice notes. I know of some colleagues that turned some of their drafts in property law into voice note that before they sleep in the night, they'll listen to it. Once they wake up in the morning, that's the first thing that they will listen to. Again, just to kind of like fast track the process and all. And then for a course like civil litigation, you might want to consider, okay, so you understand that there are some template drafts, especially when you're drafting like an application or a motion or notice. You understand that, okay, the heading of the court is always the heading of the court. So there are some things that are templates that you should already know. And that the only thing that will be different rather are the reliefs, which are some things that you can just, note while revising. So these techniques are just to ensure that, you're going over everything. You're not leaving anything out for chance. I understand the need to want to cover, the very big topics. Topics that look as if, oh, these are the strong ones, while in a way, unconsciously or consciously ignoring the seemingly simple ones. Please, if for anything, I think Chizoma would agree with me, or how some of us were shocked in our past exams to see some of the topics that we thought, oh, they were too easy or they cannot ask. You get in our exam questions. So please, in as much as you want to study, you want to read the topics that seem as though they are very challenging or they're very hard to learn or something. Please do not ignore the seemingly simple ones. And as also another thing on revision that you should note, no topic is too important. No course that is over and above another course. Like all courses are on the same level. The amount of time not necessarily the amount of time, but then the seriousness you're putting in revising your corporate law should also be the same you're putting in your property law, for criminal litigation, for ethics, for property, for what's the last one now? For civil litigation. Yes, over time we've had students say that, oh, they are way behind in ethics, they've read a lot in corporate. These all 5 courses are very important. So for your revision purposes, please do as much as possible. Make sure to revise all 5 courses, not leaving anyone out for chance at all. Another thing that I would like to talk about right on this first point are textbooks. I'm very sure that you guys are no longer opening your textbooks, because at this day there's just no time again to read or want to like go through your textbooks. What you should be more particular about are probably your jottings, what you've written down. I mean, this is like, I don't know, maybe 18th or 19th week. I'm very sure that you already have jottings, you already have class notes, you already have drafts that you can, always go back to. So this is basically the point is just to revise and not to carry textbooks and you want to start reading textbooks at this point. What is important right now are revisions. And then I understand also that there are topics that you probably have not covered too well. Let's say, for example, you are in week 18 now in your year, and then you've not entered week 19. So there's a possibility that you've not really covered week 19. So your question would not be, how would you revise something that you've not really covered, right? I think one way to approach that is probably to imbibe, which I'm also sure that you have this in mind already, but you can imbibe pre-reading before the topics you get, before the class. I mean, it would, in a way, fast track your reading process, your revision process, even for topics that you've not done. If I'm speaking too fast, let me know. I'm just trying to be mindful of time and everything. So if it's too fast.
Hi, Toby, that's fine. Thank you. Sorry to cut you short. Just wanted to tell everyone that we're open to getting questions at this point. You could just drop your questions in the chat box, and then we'll just pick it up at the end of your session. Please carry on.
Thank you very much. Okay, so for also while revising, you definitely would want to solve your past questions, your MCQs. One thing you should note, or I think that's been proven actually, is that it is actually very faster to write down your answers. Like when you're solving MCQs, it's faster to write A, B, C than it is to shade. So you want to imbibe you might want to get rather the MCQ answer sheets and start practicing solving your questions using the MCQ answer sheet. This is important for two reasons. Now, the first reason is so you know the average time it takes you to solve 100 questions, right? Because you need to time yourself. You need to know how long it takes you to solve like a whole question and all of that. So it's the more you practice using the answer sheets, the better you get at solving it at a quicker time and all. Now, the second reason why it's also good is because, well, at times it is possible that the arrangement in the MCQ answer sheets is different from the exam questions. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. So basically, the MCQ answer sheet carries civil litigation. I mean, the way the columns are written, you have civil litigation, criminal, corporate law, property, and I think ethics. So it is very possible that in your exam booklets that they are not arranged that way. So you have to be conscious of that. You have to pay attention to that. You have to ensure that you're answering the questions in the correct column. I mean, we've seen situations where a lot of people have missed or they've missed out in the MCQ questions because of this sole reason of not paying attention to that detail. So you have to be careful. So by practicing, you understand the need to pay attention to detail and also to answer it at a quicker time. So yeah, that helps. You can also set a timer for your theory questions as well. You know that you have 3 hours to answer 4 questions, 2 compulsory questions and 2 optional questions, right? So if you set a timer for your theory questions, it can also help you in terms of knowing how fast you are in answering questions, what you need to work on. Is it that you're writing too slow or you're writing too, I don't know, you're seeing a lot of things. Timing yourself will give you an idea of what you need to work on. So these are things that you need to take note right now. In fact, I would have said since, but then right now, like from today, if you have not already started doing these things, you can start immediately after this session. So the next thing I will talk about is collaboration, right? Yes, you need to learn to collaborate with people your colleagues from other campuses in terms of snap test and all. I understand that this period a lot of campuses have started dishing out snap tests. I don't know what they call it. Is it pre-bar test, or I don't know. I think that's snap test or pre-bar test. But basically, the idea is to reach out to them, see the questions that they're asking, try and solve it at your leisure time. Just collaborate with them. There's no, like my people will say, there's no island of knowledge at all. So you draw from this, you draw from that. So just try to reach out to them to get some of their questions that they're asking them at all. I remember in our set, I can't remember what course, I was a property law. Whether question 1 or question 4, the entire question was from the snap test of another campus. That goes to show that at times it can be helpful to just look at the snap test, look at the answers, to try and solve it, and also that's something that you should take note of. Now, the most important thing, which is number 3 that I would like to talk about, is approach to questions. Now, we've had situations, or a lot of people would say that, for them, it's not that they don't know the answers, but it is mostly how to present their answers. So there are things to note when you're approaching bar finals questions. So number 1, even before you see the questions, first of all, you'll be giving your answer sheets. Right from you being given your answer sheet, the first thing that you should do is to write your exam number and to label your answer sheets correctly. Okay, section A, section B. Like even before you see the exam questions, this is very, very important. A lot of people forget to label their booklets later on. So to avoid any, oh my God, I forgot, oh God, what happened? Just immediately you get your answer sheet, provided you're allowed to write, seek your permission, and then write your exam number legibly, and you indicate the booklets. Okay, section A, section B, indicate it legibly. That is something that you should know. Another thing that you should note in approaching question is writing legibly. I can confirm that I think I have one of the worst handwriting in my probably in my set or something. My handwriting is very, very bad. But for the exam, one thing I did was to ensure to write legibly. To write legibly. It's not necessarily fine, but then legibly, so that you want to put yourself in the position of the examiner. Okay, so if a third party is reading what I've written down, can they understand what I have written? You need to ask yourself that question. So if it's that you need to start practicing, like Mr. Omogunje was saying, maybe is it Omogunje or James? I can't remember. They say you get like a 2A. Start practicing handwriting at this point. Anything that you need to do to ensure that your exams, your answers are written legibly. You get another thing that you should note in approaching question is reading the questions thoroughly. You need to read the questions. You need to understand the mischief behind each and every question. There's always a mischief behind each and every. At times it can be very apparent. At times you need to read it a second time to get where the examiner is coming from. So while you're time conscious, you also want to take a deep breath to understand what you're answering. This is very, very, very important, because you find out that at times students will come out of the exam feeling very, very positive about what they've written, not knowing that they actually understood the question, or they misinterpreted the question rather in a wrong way. So it is very important that you understand the question. And I keep saying this, that it is very possible to learn how to understand questions. And this is through practicing solving past questions. Just continue to solve the past. Even the ones that you solved before, that you think you know the answer, continue to solve it. The questions will come out. Okay, yeah. As much as they might want to be creative in their questions, it is true. The structure would not be different from what they've been setting. And to be honest, there are some questions that you can already predict would come in. For example, you're dealing with criminal litigation. Of course, you can already expect your charges to come in. You can already expect your examination in chief. What's it called? Trial examination to come in, basically. So these are things that you should already have at the back of your mind. You already know how to approach the questions. You already know how to answer the questions. In property law, you can expect will. I think will is something that's always coming out. Even in corporate law, actually, I found out that for the past 10 years now, post what's it called? Registration, is it post-registration proceedings? I've forgotten what it's actually called. But that topic that you do after what is it called now? I've forgotten, but something Chief of Africa, could you refresh my memory here? Is it post-registration in corporate law? Yes,
So that's post-incorporation.
Thank you.
Procedure, yes.
Thank you. Yeah, so basically post-incorporation, that topic is something that is always coming out, like whether in one place, whether in as a sub or as a full question, it is always coming out. I don't know. So it's something that you can in a way predict some of those questions that can come out, so you can already know how to approach them. So when you practice those questions, you can see that it will be easy for you to approach them if you see those questions or similar questions in exam. Another thing, like I think I've spoken on this before, is time management in the exam hall, right? You have 3 hours for your theory questions. You have 4 questions to answer, right? 2 compulsory and 2 optional questions. So you need to allocate the time. Time allocation is very, very important. When you see yourself exceeding the time that you've allocated for a particular question, you may want to probably pause and then move on to another question. And if you're able to come back to that question, then you come back to it and finish it. So for me, what I did was to allocate, I think I did 50 minutes for this compulsory question, then about 40 minutes or thereabout for the optional questions. So I also had something called a stoppage time. So of course, there'll be a clock in the exam. If there's no clock, please ensure that there's a clock, because you need to be conscious of time at every opportunity. So what I did basically, if I found out that I've started exceeding the time I allocated for a particular course, I had something called the stoppage time. Like, okay, I will stop in the next 5 minutes and do the next question. Probably come back to it. So I answered my the compulsory questions first in section A, in section B, and then the remaining time, the remainder of the time, I did it for the optional questions. So it is you need to. It's not say don't enter the exam unprepared in terms of allocation of time. You can start allocating your time right now. You can start practicing even how to allocate time if you do not do that right now. If you're someone that you're slow in writing, probably you need to start writing now so you can, pick it up something. And if your handwriting is bad, like I said, writing legibly. So it is very important that you allocate time. Another thing for approaching questions are the questions themselves. There are times when you see questions I think you can see questions such as what are the stages of a client interview? Okay, this is like for professional ethics now. What are the stages of a client interview? At times you might be, I don't know, you might want to just go straight and say, okay, stages of a client interview, listening, interviewing or question and something. So I just want to go straight to the point at all, which is fine, but then you should know that you need to answer it fully. So rather than just writing, listening, questioning and interviewing or whatever, what you should write or a better approach would be the stages of a client interview are this. So writing full answers. When I mean full answers, not necessarily verbals, but then writing fully to show that yes, you understand, like you know what you're saying. You're speaking to each question. You see some questions that would ask you that would be more or less a personalized question. Will your answer be different or will it be the same? They're asking you a personalized question. Will your answer be different? Okay, you should answer it. Yes, my answer will be different, or no, my answer will not be different. And then now go on to, state your reason why, put your authority and all. Personally, I enjoyed using paragraphs a lot in my exam. So when I see questions like, at times you see 3 questions in one, you ask 3 things rather in one question. Would your answer be different? State the reason why your answer will be different while doing something else. So for that type of question, and because I wanted the examiner to, see where I'm coming from, I don't want, you're trying to find the reason from the answer what I did was to implement paragraphs. No, my answer will be different. I'll leave one line, next question. The reason why my answer will be different, just to make my work very clean, so that the examiner can understand my answers, can make it to be easier for the examiner. At every point in time, you need to put yourself in the position of the examiner. Okay, if the examiner is reading my answers, will they understand what I'm trying to say? Have I what's the word now? Have I written the answers in a way that it will be very easy for anybody to understand what I have said? Again, and thankfully, the questions for bar finals are not, the questions are not questions that require you to write a lot. You get usually very straightforward, short and simple answers. So it is very, very important that you also do that. Keep it short and simple. You get, while putting in the necessary information. All right. Another thing I would like to talk about. Okay, I've spoken about the fact that you should use paragraphs, right? Space out your answers. The goal is to ensure that the examiners understand what you want to write and what you're saying. Yes, I've spoken about answering in the first person pronoun. Like they're asking me, will your answer be different? My answer will not be different. What are the exceptions to the duty of confidentiality of your clients? You know, when you see questions that, I don't know, it's relating back to the scenario, always answer it in a way that is also relating back to the scenario. Another example that I'll give is property law, right? So there was I think it was our question number 1, and it told us to highlight the transactions in the question. And that told us to mention the authority, the laws that are applicable. You get, so while you're answering that type of question and you find yourself repeating some things, and it is safer for you to repeat those things than to jam pack it or to join it together. Like for example, now you're trying to mention laws that are applicable. Probably land use act. I want to say you see yourself saying land use act in like 3 or 4 different places. Yes, that's how exactly how you should answer that question. Don't think that if I've already mentioned it in the first one, don't try to think for your examiner that you expect your examiner to to understand or to know that, oh, since you've written in the first line, it means that it applies to all the subsequent transactions. It does not work that way. If you need to repeat Land Use Act 4 times, you should repeat the Land Use Act 4 times in your answer. Very, very important. Another strategy or another more like a strategy that I would advise is, particularly when you see questions that has to do with, distinguishing, trying to draw a difference or create a difference or something like that. Mrs. James gave us this insight, and I think it's something that I used, and I think it made my work look very neat. That is just drawing a table, putting a table. If a question is asking you on the differences between a list and an assignment, just draw a table. This assignment, this just makes your work very neat. The goal is to make your work and your answers very neat. You get, so that's the third one. The fourth thing I'll talk about is elder living. Now, because of the period that we're in, we tend to, there's lots of the bar final students right now tend to stress themselves a lot. There are times when you might even forget to eat. You get, it happens that you forget to eat. So ensure that you're snacking on something at every time you're reading. You ensure that you're snacking at something. Please reduce the what's it called now? The energy booster intake. Reduce. Some people take, forgotten of this drink, but then just try and reduce it. What you actually need is real food. But if you cannot get real food, you can just ensure that you snack on something and try and eat very well. On that thing is our advice, especially for some of us that malaria is, I don't know. Malaria is something that can just come easily. You can probably get your malaria medication down right now, so that it won't come as a surprise when you find yourself suddenly sick during a week before an exam or something because of the stress that you've gone through. So please, this is something that happened to me. I was sick a week before the exam for like 4 days. But thankfully, I've gotten my drugs, like I've gotten my malaria drugs and all that. So I was able to, to use my drugs on time. And yes, the rest is actually excellent. So please, healthy living, try and eat well, try and sleep well. Honestly, I would really advise 5 to 6 hours of at least 5 to 6 hours of sleep right now, because you need your head to be very sharp. You need it to be very sharp at this period. So please try and sleep well, ensure that you're eating well, ensure that basically just ensure that you're eating well. I know you're going to be stressing yourself. You'll be reading a lot into the night, especially because of you're still having classes. You still have to do your pre-tax assignments. You also still need to revise and all of that. Yes, I completely understand. So you just need to try to find that balance you get. So last thing before we throw the floor back to the participants for their questions, the positive mindset you get. So some people are already counting down to the exam. So there's a lot of tension flying around over now. So you need to ensure that you're not allowing that tension to get to you. You need to be conscious about your mindset, if that is the word. Like, you need to be conscious about the things that you're listening to, things that people are saying. You need to understand. You need to continue to tell yourself that you didn't start reading last week. It's something that it's a foundation that you've been building since the very first day that you started classes. You get. So, I mean, thinking about all of that from almost 9 months now up until now. So there's just no way that you can fail or anything. So you need to keep reminding yourself that you've got this, that there's nothing, that this exam is not, I don't know. Honestly, to be honest, it's not as serious as it is, but then just keep telling yourself that your exam is not as it looks. Try and ensure that you're not listening to people. People are not, spreading negativity around. These are very, very important. You get, and also you need to be very prayerful at this period. You need to be prayerful. You need to be prayerful to keep yourself away, basically, from negativity and all. So I think because of time, I would stop here for now, and then we'll just probably address specific questions that participants may already have. So again, thank you very much for listening and for having me.
Thank you so much, Mr. Oladebo. That was really insightful. I particularly liked how very practical your session was, and how you were able to give practical tips for people to employ while in the examination hall and post leaving the examination hall. I know I particularly vibe with the idea of collaborating with students across the campuses and paying very keen attention during your pre-bar tests. It's very, apart from the fact that, like Tobiloba said last year, it so happened that one of the questions that came out for the pre-bar questions for one of the campuses came out in the exams. You need to amass as much experience as you can, trying your hand at several questions, right? So it's very important for you to actively take part in the pre-bar exams, and don't shortcut yourself. Don't do this thing where people try to take in I don't want to call it examination malpractice. They copy from their text or from their notebooks when the questions for the pre-bar come. You're just shortchanging yourself. The whole essence of the pre-bar is to test how far you read, how ready you are, and where to make changes. So put in as much effort as you can into the pre-bar and into also the revisions. And also about the structuring your time. So when you get into the examination hall, it's very important that you structure your time before you start reading questions. The structure, how many minutes am I spending reading the questions? How many minutes am I spending answering this question and this question and this question? It is very important that you have that in mind. So when you start answering your questions and you have exceeded the time for one question, move on to the next question, and then try as much as possible to finish that question with spare time, and then come back and finish the previous one. Do not spend so much time on one question that you relegate the others. And one other thing that I also took, one final thing, is understand the questions. One of our lecturers said that it's more important to spend 10 minutes reading all of the questions than just starting. So once you're about to start, spend 10-15 minutes to read all of the questions and be sure you understand, and then you select the ones you want to do. the ones you want to answer. And then understand that the questions don't have the same marks. Some have 25, some have 15 marks. So the time, how you would approach the questions that have 25 marks, the compulsory questions, will be different from how you would, the amount of time and effort you would put into answering the questions that have just 15 marks. So I think we'll just go straight to the questions to Beloba, if that's okay. So one question that we have had recall in all of these sessions has been, so we have 3 weeks or thereabout to the bar finals, and there is just so much to read. There's just so much to get into your head. What do you focus on with this limited time that you have? What would you advise people to focus on within this period?
Okay, so again, I'll just reiterate that I would think your notes, your jottings right now are like the most important things to focus on. I would, if I were you, I would do away with textbooks. In fact, like when I mean do away with textbooks, you don't even see them at all within your vicinity. Like do away completely with textbooks. I wasn't so much of a material person, so I didn't really use a lot of materials, but I don't know. Personally, would advise that you focus more on your notes and your jottings. Of course, you're going to have jottings already, so these jottings would, in a way, just try and to help in your revisions you get. So these are things that you should focus on. And because of the time that you have, I think I might also want to incorporate what was this thing called? Abbreviations. You get, I can still remember Isiaka from last year. So I used Isiaka for what's it called now? Written address, right? So Isiaka like introduction, summary of facts, and so in a way, just to explore my my intention of it to get. So you can incorporate abbreviations that are for you. Don't use another person's abbreviations, please. These are things that you should use that are for you. So I feel like these are things that you can do, basically.
All right, thank you very much. So one other question that I've had recall over course of the session has also been how to retain authorities. So we have 20 questions across 5 subjects. So that's like 20 topics. That's approximately around 100 topics, and you have a legion of authorities, cases, and sections. So how would you advise anybody to get all of those into their head? And then also, what takes precedence? Cases or sections, or is it possible to just use one instead of both?
Okay, so I think an approach that I would advise is to use either. Like, there are people that they take in cases more, and there are people that take in sections more. I was a case person, so if I see a case that already talks to like a particular point, I don't even bother myself reading the section at all. I'll just stick to that case. So you need to find out what works for you. Are you someone that it's easier for you to remember numbers, to remember sections, or to remember cases? For example, now in criminal investigation, you can see I don't know, a particular principle, telling you ACJA, ACJL, Lagos, ACJL, Kano, and then there's a case. So I'm like, rather than having those 3 things and then having that case, why not just use that case alone and then just move ahead with your answer? Personally, I feel like the same answer, the same mark you're going to get for using one case is the same mark on that person that's using a case and 4 sections would get, in my opinion. So I feel that it is always advisable to find what works for you. If you're a case person or a section person, just use either. You don't necessarily have to use both.
All right, thank you. So how would you advise anybody to be able to get all of these authorities into their head? Because as you would imagine, people forget. You think you have something down, and then when you try to recall, you've forgotten. How would you advise anybody to get that?
Okay, so would things fly out of the head over time? Yes, definitely. I want to be as practical as possible. Things will definitely fly out of your head. Yes, things definitely flew out of my head. What I did then, I had like a table, in my long notes, I had a table for principles, like important principles. I wrote those principles down in the case. So. And then I do a lot of mental gymnastics. I can be sleeping and I'm like, okay, what is this? I'm trying to remember a principle. And then I can't remember the case. Immediately, I just go back to my list of cases and principles and just look at the principle, note the case, and then carry on. So, it's, to be honest, I don't know. I aside very few of us, it's very hard. It is very, very hard to put in all of the cases into your head. But I mean, you can get that, you can use that strategy of writing your cases down to their principles. Principle one, okay, this principle, because it's something that probably it's a principle that keeps recurring. So you can just have a case for that. So when you find yourself struggling to remember a case, you can always go back to that, to your jotter or to wherever you've written it down. And then hopefully the main point is to remember it on that exam day. It is, or what's the word? It is okay to forget and then go back and check it right now. You get. I personally feel like the more time keep checking it, the what's it called? The more it sticks, and then hopefully you remember it when needed. So that's just what I would advise.
All right, thank you so much. So we have people on the call who would want to know how you manage to be the third best in property law. How do you win prizes? How do you answer your questions to be able to stand out? Yeah.
Okay. Well, personally, I'm thinking of like a personal experience now. I did not think I was going to get any prize or get a prize for poverty. In fact, I kept on asking myself, how did I answer those questions? Like, what did I do differently? I personally did not. I was not keen on getting a prize where I was answering that question. I just wanted to answer the questions and I just answer the questions basically. So I don't know. I don't know if I'm answering this question right, but personally, I think the best advice is just to ensure that you've answered each and every question. And then if you are getting the best prize for it, fine. Just ensure that you've answered each and every question. If you understand the question, just like rightly said, and you've given the right answer to it. So basically, that was what I did. And I don't know, still my name there. So yeah.
All right. All right. So you spoke about having to be legible in your writing, and we also know that you have a limited time. You have 3 hours, and sometimes it's not enough. So I understand that when people are in a hurry, that is when their handwriting often gets like really bad. So as someone who has dealt with this, how would you advise anybody to be able to manage their time effectively while also writing legibly?
Yeah, thank you very much. I also had that challenge. So just like you said, you need to understand that the approach and the efforts you take to a question, or especially to a compulsory question, is different from that you take to an optional question, right? So for my own compulsory questions, I was very particular about them. Like I was very, very particular about it. Writing legibly, though it was a little bit slower, but I was very particular about ensuring that it was very clear. And of course, you have 20 more minutes. Well, anytime I hear that you have 20 more minutes, I make sure that it's on there. Like I'm probably on the last optional questions, and then just try and answer it. Though it's not that clear, or it won't be that clear as the previous ones. But then, just like you said, it's all about allocating time and effort, basically. So to the ones that have more marks, I was more patient in answering those questions, and then the ones that 15 marks. I'm not saying 15 marks are not important too, but the point is that of course you are going to have this challenge, and when you have to rush, you just have to rush, and there's nothing you can do. But then just try and ensure that you're rushing on questions that are not on questions that are probably on the optional question and not on the compulsory ones. So that I would always advise that you start with your compulsory questions and then you end with your optional questions.
All right, thank you. So we have just 2 more questions and then we'll let you go. So yes, how does one deal with the anxiety of preparing for the exams? Because the anxiety is, as you would remember, it's nerve-wracking. So few weeks to the exams, and you're saying you have so much to cover. You see people who seem to know all the cases and all the sections. How do you deal with the anxiety such that you'll be able to effectively remember effectively? Because some people are unable to sleep because of anxiety. They just can't sleep. So how would you advise anybody to be able to manage that?
Okay, so basically my advice would be basically what I did. I worked, or I mean worked, like I collaborated with people that we are like more or less like on the same. We understood what we wanted to get at the law school, so it was easy to to work with people of like-mindedness. Like they understand that okay, these exams are very we understand how it is. We get so many times we even made fun of how of how of how the exams would be and all. So I think working or basically being friends, I had like a group of friends back then in Lagos campus, and that we usually met up. We usually met during the weekends to solve questions and all of that. So I think at times we just talk about how we were feeling, and we're just encouraging one another. So having people to encourage you, having friends that understand, you get what you are going through, understand down the same wave as you are. I think it's a way to to manage the anxiety, and also you need to be very conscious about it. You need to be very conscious about it. I don't deny the fact that there were times when myself, I had that, I don't want to call it an anxiety attack, because that sounds very, very serious. But then I had, something close to that. It was in the middle of the night. I just woke up and then I was feeling like, what's going on? You get, but after drinking water, and then reminding myself that you've been reading for since day one, that there's need to feel this way, and also you need to be conscious of it. You need to be conscious. At times, and I also, one thing I discovered was because of the things I had heard that night before sleeping. You get, so that's why I mentioned that you need to be conscious of the things that you're hearing. You get, so because in a way, consciously they're entering into your subconsciousness. So you need to ensure that you're not listening to basically negativity and anxiety flying around. You keep hearing people saying they finished 20 cases, and you're like, I've read 5, that I'm not serious. The point is to trust in yourself, and that's just basically the point. Trust in yourself. Have your people, have people that's also on the same wave as you are, and then basically.
Yeah. So thank you so much. That was very important for me, because I realized that during my own time, one very useful advice I got was that it's your responsibility to safeguard your case. So if your roommate, this is not the time to get into fight with your roommates or to argue with anybody about what case is important or what this lecturer has said. Just safeguard your case. And like Toby has said, you might want to reach out to seniors who have also gone through this, right? Everybody who has gone to the law school can empathize with you and will be able to talk you through all of the whatever, but please take care of your mental health. Finally, Toby, so post-examination books, right? So after your exams, everybody's going, people are looking at questions, people are arguing, how do you prepare for the next? How do you get out of your head regarding the paper you just took, especially in instances where maybe you feel that you didn't do so well? How do you prepare for the next, especially considering, it's back to back?
So basically, what I would advise is just keep looking ahead, looking forward to the next paper. I mean, just one. I mean, it. I won't say it is easy, but the thing that I did was, anytime I finish an exam, I just forget about the exam. It is not easy to actually forget about it. In fact, I knew it was not easy after the exams. You get, but for that week, there was no time for me to start thinking about criminal litigation when I had corporate law the next day. There was actually no time for me to start reading about the questions or these things. One thing that I noticed that caused a lot of people to start to think about or start to doubt themselves is because there's usually a lot of chatter after exams. You see people talking about holding their question paper. Oh, how did you approach this question? How did this and that? So I feel like those things are things that would affect anyone. So I would advise honestly that you don't join such gatherings. Just go straight to your room or to your reading thing and just get ready for the next paper. If you need to go and sleep, honestly, I usually go to sleep immediately after exam. Yes, I can wake up refreshed and then start the whole process all over again. So just detaching yourselves from groups when you see people talking about, even if it is your roommate that are talking about it, I would really advise I just leave that room at that time. I remember when we had our criminal litigation, they're talking about the charges, and then people were saying, oh, they drafted 9, 10, 11. And then I didn't know what so I just, in that type of moment, I just left the room at that point. There was no way I could allow myself to listen to that, but I know myself that it definitely affects my reading for that day. So that's my advice. Just look forward to the next paper, detach yourself from gatherings, from people that are talking about the exams, and then that's also. I trust that you've done well.
All right. Thank you so much, Oluwatobiloba, for this session. Thank you for your time. So right now we'll be moving on to the second session. and I'll just quickly be reading out the citation of our speaker. So we have Mr. Kenneth Okwo, who will be speaking to us very shortly now. So Kenneth Okwo is a lawyer with 8 years experience advising on innovative legal and financing structures for sustainable infrastructure and access to finance projects across Africa. Kenneth is a consulting counsel on non-sovereign and private sector operations at the African Development Bank. He was a research fellow at the IMF, a senior associate finance and projects at Templars, a bridge fellow at the NESG, and was also an adjunct lecturer of corporate law at the Nigerian Law School, Lagos campus. Kenneth received his legal training at the University of Jos and the Nigerian Law School, where he earned a first class and the Star Prize as best graduating student. He holds a master's degree LLM in international financial law from Harvard and a master's in corporate law, MCL, from the University of Cambridge. Kenneth is currently waiting for his Viva 4C at the University of Cambridge, having submitted his PhD thesis on economic and monetary law. We are really happy to have you, Mr. Okwo. The floor is yours, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes, please. We can hear you.
Okay. I'm really delighted to be here. And I thank everyone who has worked hard to make this session a success. Particularly Mr. Tubenna. I've really been impressed by the work he's been doing at the ICLE. I've been in practice for a while now. And I know that the ICLE before him was not very functional. So I really commend his efforts in reviving the ICLE and in catering to all segments of our profession, to our seniors, to those in the mid-range of their careers, and then to those who are coming into the profession. So I must really commend Mr. Tubenna for the excellent work that he's been doing at the ICLE. And I also commend the team of young lawyers who came together to make this seminar, this series of seminars, a success. I will be talking to you this evening about starting out a career in the legal profession. I have taken the time to prepare some slides to enable me talk. The slides are appropriately titled Starting Out a Career in the Legal Profession. The first thing you would do is to introspect. And that's what I'd advise anyone starting out a career in anything really, legal profession or any other profession. The first thing you should do really is to introspect. And in our case, the questions you need to ask yourself is, why do I want to become a lawyer? I need to be very honest with yourself with the answer. The answer could be like mine, which is I put law in my JAMB form because my father insisted that it would be law. What I wanted to study was literature and English. But my dad insisted that, his first son was going to study law because he himself is a lawyer. And so I put law there, and I had literature and English as my second choice. So you need to be very honest with yourself about the answer to the question, why do I want to become a lawyer? Because it guides the decisions, or it shapes the decisions you make after becoming a lawyer, right? And after answering that first question, the next question you need to ask yourself is what kind of lawyer you want to be? And that is the more important question, right? Now, for me, I knew why I became a lawyer. I became a lawyer because my dad insisted that I put law in my JAMB form. But having put law in my JAMB form, now it was up to me to determine the kind of lawyer that I wanted to become. And I decided very early on that if I am going to do this thing, then I'll be really good at it and I'll be one of the best and to do it. And so I started making efforts from the very early days in my university to make sure that I become that kind of lawyer that I aspired to become. So you must be honest with yourself why you want to become a lawyer. It could be a fantastic reason like you want to help fight for social justice or whatever, or it could be a flimsy reason like mine, but it's important that you're honest with yourself in answering that question because it informs your answer to the next question. And when you answer that next question, what kind of lawyer you want to become, then you start ideating and start thinking about the steps you need to take to become that kind of lawyer you want to become. You start working with a 5-year goal in mind, with 10-year goal in mind, because you know how you want to be in the future. And then you start crafting and strategizing on how to get there. Now that you've answered those two questions, and for the audience you have here today, which I understand are students at the Nigerian Law School, you're about to become lawyers. What do you do, right? You need to start thinking about a career, right? You need to plan how you get into that career and how that career would go. So you need to have a plan for that. A career is something that is by definition long-term, right? So if you're thinking of doing the law long-term, you must have a plan in place. You can't go into it haphazardly. If you don't have a plan in place, then you are certainly planning to fail at it. And so you must have a plan in place on the necessary steps that you need to take in that career as a lawyer. And Chambers and Partners they published an annual guide for students who are coming into the legal profession. And in their opinion, there are three things. So there are three core steps that you need to take or need to have at the back of your mind to enable you properly plan your career in the legal services market. And that's that it applies really to any market you want to play in. But today we're talking about the legal services market. And the first one is boosting your employability. The second one is awareness, really. I have broken that down to mean self-awareness or market awareness, self-awareness and market awareness, and then making good decisions. So those three are the recommended core steps by Chambers and Partners. And from my own personal experiences, I've added a couple of others: applications and interviews, reliability and consistency, and mentors. Mentors is listed last, but in many ways it's almost the most important, because without good mentors, you're bound to make mistakes. If you have good mentors or good role models, then you'd avoid a lot of the mistakes that you're likely to make on your path to becoming a great lawyer. And so we'll take each of these in sequence and then discuss them and see how they help you in planning out your career, starting a career and in planning out your career in the legal profession. And I'll try to talk about them using experiences from myself and people that have had the privilege of either watching their careers evolve or learning from their careers. Now, boosting your employability, it's the first one. And the first step for doing that is getting good grades. The previous speaker has done an excellent job at telling you how to get good grades at the Nigerian Law School. And I understand that over the course of this series, we've listened to a number of people who have done well at Nigerian Law School speak about how they managed to get good grades at the law school. I remember when I went to the law school many years ago, my intention was to be the best. And I went into the law school with that intention and I worked towards it. So for some of you, time is fast spent, because I understand your exams are around the corner. But as the previous speaker has said, if you put in effort in revising your notes, just trying to remember all of the things that have been said in class, and I emphasize all of the things that have been said in class, it will go a long way in helping you get very good grades, and that will put you in sound footing as you enter into the legal services market. And then the second point is experience. Experience is very important. And for students who are just leaving school, you gain experience from internships, you gain experience from volunteering, and you gain experience from extracurricular activities. And now what experience does for you is that you gain soft skills, you gain transferable skills, you gain insights into what employers are looking for. And I'll demonstrate this. When I was in university, I used to intern at a law firm, with Chambers. That's what we had in Justin. It was a one-month practice. And what I learned at that firm was research, right? He would have cases and he would task me with, finding him case law, finding him statutory provisions, finding him, authorities from textbooks that would help him properly argue his case in court. And I'd spend hours and hours and hours in his library just researching. At that time, I thought it was slave work, right? But as I planned, this was my second year, third year, fourth year in university. But as I progressed and got to my fifth year and got to the law school, that ability to sit down for several hours, reading through law reports, that ability to sit down for several hours, reading through textbooks, studying statutes in detail, helped me understand the law better, helped me sit down for several hours in the law school studying, and helping my first year of practice. And it's still helping me today because I can sit down for several hours to study. And that really makes all the difference, right? So it gives you work ethic, right? That experience, it gives you work ethic. And so when when you're applying and you put on your CV that you've interned at X and Y places, what I see as someone reviewing your CV is this person has a good work ethic, right? But it also depends on the kind of internships. There are people you see who, within a space of 6 months, have done internships in 10 offices. It makes no sense because I just know you're not doing anything there. You're just shopping from law firm to law firm. But if I see that in 6 months, you've done an internship at one firm, right? Or you've done an internship at one firm for 2 months, 3 months, 6 months. It means the firm kept you because they value your work. And it means that you're gaining experience, not just soft skills, but also hard legal skills because you're working with them, right? And so when I see internships on your CV, I know that. Can you hear me?
Oh, yes, we can. Yes, we can, sir.
Yeah, I saw a question suggesting that you can't hear me. So when you gain experience, the experience helps you. It makes you more employable, right? You gain soft skills, interpersonal skills in the office, intrapersonal skills, just being comfortable within your own skin in a work environment, transferable skills like communication, right? Being able to type, communication, both oral and written, coexisting with other people in an office space. And then importantly, you also understand what employers are looking for. Because when you're working with a law firm or you're working in a law practice, you would understand how a law practice operates. And then when you're writing a CV and an application letter to talk to a law firm about employment, you know exactly what to write because you now have insights on what the law firm wants. And your application will be tailored to the needs of a law firm and not generic, right? And another thing that boosts your employability is writing, right? Law firms like people that write because law firms write client alerts, law firms write reviews of statutes, law firms write opinions. So they want to see that you are able to write and communicate your ideas clearly. So if you put in your CV that you've written 1, 2, 3 articles, the law firm is impressed, particularly when the articles are on topical issues, right? It makes you more employable. Extracurricular activities are also important because law firms don't want people who are 100% focused on the law. They want well-rounded individuals, right? A law firm wants somebody who is sociable, and I think that I also put that point somewhere down. The law firm wants somebody who is a well-rounded individual and can exist in society and is not necessarily just 100% focused on the law and knows nothing outside the law. So whilst you're good at the law, you should also be good at other things in society. And these were things that I tried to imbibe into my progression from a law student to a lawyer, right? I had internships when I was in uni. At the law school, I was part of the law clinic. And in the law clinic, in all of these things, if you try to get leadership positions, it also helps you. And then after law school, I also had an internship that I was doing. And I didn't shop around for too many internships. So what I was looking for was value and quality. So the internships I did them for extended periods of time so that I'd really be immersed in the work and gain not just soft and transferable skills, but also hard legal skills. And that really helped me. Another thing that law firms want, particularly if you're looking to join big law, is commercial awareness. And commercial awareness, there's no definition for it. It simply means just know what is happening. Another term for current affairs, if you like. If you're going to say Templars, commercial awareness to Templars would mean understanding of the market that Templars plays in. So if you applying to the finance practice at Templars, what is happening in the financial space in Nigeria, you should know that. If you're applying to the disputes practice at Templars, what's happening in the disputes world in Nigeria, right? Maybe even beyond, because arbitration takes you outside the shores of the country that you're operating in, right? So you must know what is going on. You must be able to speak to the issues that are topical, and you'll be able to understand the legal issues or the legal implications of of the events that are going on in society. And then importantly, you must have mentors. If you don't have mentors, things will be very difficult for you, because when you're applying to law firms, you need people to guide you on the way to go. When you're trying to make yourself employable, you need people to guide you on the way to go, to tell you what to do and what not to do, to keep you accountable to yourself, and to ensure that you're not making mistakes that are avoidable. And also, you may need people to write letters of recommendation, reference letters. This is where your mentors come in, where your teachers come in, or where your role models come in. So you can never underestimate the value of mentors. Very important. So I must state that boosting your employability is an ongoing process. It never ends, right? So the fact that you've done all you need to do to get the job does not mean that you should stop doing those things, because when you get the job, you need to hold down that job, maintain it, and then grow in that job. So all of these things, the only one that ceases to be particularly relevant after you get the job is the one on grades. But if you're going to pursue further academic studies, then you have to do that and do that well. But experience in the office, so when you've gotten the job, do not think that it's done. You must gain transactional experience or dispute experience, depending on the space you're playing in. And then that experience would help you grow in the firm and become a more useful member of the team, and make you grow, so that you can begin to mentor others within the practice and train others within the practice, as opposed to being a trainee perpetually. So the next point is self-awareness. And self-awareness requires a lot of introspection, right? Do you want to function as a lawyer? That's the first question you should ask yourself. If you are not interested in functioning as a lawyer, then the advice I'm giving here is not for you. If you want to go into something else, pursue a career in filmmaking or whatever, I'm happy to connect you to friends of mine who have successfully done that after the law school. The advice I give here is for those who want to function as lawyers. So you need to answer that question so that you know exactly what you're doing post-law school. If you don't want to function as a lawyer, start pursuing the career that makes you happy. If practicing law is what you want to do and will make you happy, then jump in with both feet. And then if you've decided to function as a lawyer, are you a practitioner? Are you an academic? Or are you both? That's a question you need to answer for yourself very early on, so you don't start making mistakes. Because if you're an academic and then you go and join, say, a firm like Templars, you will be frustrated. If you're an academic and you go and join a firm like Banwa and Igudalo and everybody that wants, or Adekolani, Udoma, firms that want seasoned practitioners and people who are interested in becoming practitioners, you'll be frustrated. So if you're not cut out to be a practitioner, you should be able to tell yourself that early on and tell yourself the truth about that. If you're an academic, there are options for you. The law school is there, universities are there, and we'll talk about those shortly. And then, are you both? So you could be a practitioner and an academic, and there are people who have done that and have done that excellently. There's Fidelis Odita, there's Konya Jai, there's Bola and Elias, there's Olani Pekun, I think Dapo Olani Pekun. So there are lots of examples of people who are both practitioners and academics and are doing it well. So you need to be very honest with yourself about the kind of lawyer you want to be. Are you drawn to, and if you're a practitioner, the next question you need to ask yourself is whether you're drawn to litigation or you're drawn to transactional work. Now, I would explain this with a personal story. When I was in uni, I used to do a lot of moot court, and moot court was my life, and I was very good at it. And so I was convinced that I was going to be a litigator. My lecturers were convinced I was going to be a litigator. I used to do moot court, not just within JOS where I schooled, but within the region, travel to Lagos for moot court, win prizes, come back, celebrated as a hero. So I believed I was going to the courtroom, right? And when I applied when I was interning, all my internships were on disputes, right? So my first internship in uni was pure dispute practice. My internship at Simon Cooper was pure dispute. I was going to court with them all the time. And so when I was applying to Templars to join them, in my application, I wrote that I love litigation and I wanted to come and do litigation. But I wasn't really looking at what my transcripts and what my results were saying. Whilst I made good grades, I didn't realize that I made better grades in commercial courses. So I will get 5 E's in 5 courses, including commercial courses and disputes courses. But the one I win prizes are the commercial courses, not the disputes courses. Well, I'll get an E. So the fact I was getting A's across board convinced me that I was good at it, right? I was good at disputes, this commercial courses is fine, we're gonna argue it in court. But I didn't see that what came naturally to me were the commercial courses, right? And so I wanted to pursue a career in litigation. And so when I went to Templars and I told them, I want to do disputes, the practice manager looked at me and said, come, I looked at your results, I watched you during the interview, you are natural on the transactional side, so we'll start you up in finance. And I was angry, I was frustrated. I didn't like it at all. I felt, now they want to ruin my career that I've been planning for many years. And then when I joined finance, I realized that you might be good at something, but it won't come naturally to you. And over time, you get frustrated at it. And I noticed that when I started going to court alone, eventually when I rotated to disputes and I started going to court alone, I noticed that I got frustrated very quickly. When the courts didn't sit or when the judge was wasting time, I got frustrated very quickly. And I realized that what came naturally to me was transactional work, but I wasn't honest with myself from the beginning. But I thank God that I had mentors and role models and people guiding me who made sure the practice manager at Templars, my supervising partner at the time, Desmond, they made sure when I didn't leave finance, because if I had stubbornly left, it would be a different conversation now. And so, they helped me not make that mistake. So it's something you need to be very honest to yourself about. And then, do you have a long, medium, or short attention span? It's also very important, because that would now determine whether you join big law or you go in-house, or you just go and look for a small practice without a lot of briefs where you go into. Because if there are certain firms that you join and you'd expect to be active, your brain needs to be active for several hours on end. And if you cannot do that, then you get frustrated very quickly. There are lots of questions that you need to ask yourself, but you need to be very honest with yourself when you're preparing to get into the legal services market and when you're preparing to start out a career in the legal profession. Because if you don't answer these questions honestly, then you're bound to make mistakes. And those mistakes will cost you and they'll come back to haunt you somewhere down the line. The next point is market awareness. You must understand the legal services market you're going to play in. If you don't understand the market, then you won't be able to properly position yourself for the roles in that market. You must know the law firms that are available, or law practices that are available. You must know their strengths, their weaknesses. You must know exactly where they sit in the market. So that when you're applying to them, you tailor your application, and your application is speaking directly to the law firm and to what you want to go and do at the law firm, for the law firm, and with the law firm. So if you've decided that you want to be a practitioner, where do you want to practice? Do you want to go private? If you're going private, is it big law? Is it a medium-sized practice? Is it small practice? Is it a boutique firm that focuses on a specific practice area? Or do you want to do it on your own, right? I wouldn't advise anybody to do it on their own straight out of law school, except if you were practicing in, say, another jurisdiction. Maybe you were practicing in the UK or in New York, and then you decided to come back to Nigeria to practice. And then you've gone to the Nigerian law school to qualify in Nigeria to enable you practice. In that case, you can start out your own practice. But if you're fresh out the oven, as most of us are, then you would want to spend significant time in an existing practice so that you understand how the law is worked in Nigeria, and you understand how practitioners go about their business. You could also choose to go in-house if you want to be private. And if you choose to go in-house, you also have to be honest with yourself about the sector that you want to play in: oil and gas, real estate, agriculture, food, whatever, right? So you need to be honest with yourself about where you'd feel more comfortable, because remember, this is a career you're building and it's long-term. You don't want to start here and tomorrow you're jumping there. You want to build it so that every experience you gain going forward is cognate and contributes to the next step that you're going to take. Do you want to go public? Many people go public. I think most people actually go public because, I mean, how many law firms employ in Nigeria? So Ministry of Justice, that's one option if you're going public. There are lots of other ministries, departments, and agencies that take in lawyers. FIRS takes in a lot of lawyers. CAC, that's the Ministry of Trade. Ministry of Trade and Investment takes in a lot of lawyers. Ministry of Petroleum takes in lawyers, particularly through the NUR. upstream, regulatory, whatever, right? So you need to be honest with yourself. If you're going public, you want to go to the Ministry of Justice where you do the whole state council thing and be a prosecutor and rise through the ranks. Do you want to go to another ministry and gain specialized knowledge? Ministry of Finance, the presidency has a trade office, which is the next point on public. Do you want to go to the legislature and help them at the National Assembly with legislative drafting? There are lawyers who work there. Do you want to go to the executive and work in? I remember in 2016, I got an offer to come and work in the governor's office in my state as the legal liaison between the governor's office and the Ministry of Justice. So I was employed in the governor's office, but I ultimately rejected the offer because what I wanted to do was very different. I was very honest with myself. Now, it was a very attractive offer at the time to be following the governor around, doing nice things and taking nice pictures and, participating in politics money. But it wasn't what I wanted at the time. I wanted something very different. So even though the offer was great and it was good, I rejected it at the time because I was honest with myself. So there are several options if you've chosen to be a practitioner: private, law firm, in-house, public, ministries, the executive, that's the office of the president or the office of the governor. You could be in the legislature. And I have friends in all these places, and I know they're all doing very great work. I have friends in the National Office for Trade Negotiation, right, NOTN. Great lawyers doing great work there, and that's in the executive. So it just depends on what you being honest with yourself about what you want to do. Then do you want to become an academic? If you want to become an academic, it's a different question entirely, because you need to pursue postgraduate studies for that. Where do you want to teach? Do you want to teach at the law school? In which case, postgraduate studies is not an immediate necessity. And then if you're lucky to get an offer, you can do that. Or do you want to teach in the university, whether public or private, in which case postgraduate studies is a requirement for that. So you either get the offer and start your postgraduate studies, or pursue postgraduate studies and then start in the university, whether public or private. So you need to be honest with yourself about whether you want to go to the academia or you want to be a practitioner. Or are you like me, who is a scholar practitioner? Now, a scholar practitioner is somebody who is both an academic and a practitioner. And it's hard work because you need to have one, I won't say one foot in practice and one foot in academia. No, you need to have 2 legs in practice and 2 legs in academia. That's the only way it works. That's the only way it works. So you need to be able to figure out how you balance academia and practice, or practice and academia. And I'll give you a personal story. When I finished from the law school in November 2015, I got an offer to join Templars. I got the offer before the bar final results came out. And I said I was going to join Templars. After the bar final results came out, I got an offer to teach corporate law at the Lagos campus of the law school. And then when I resumed in January 2016, I resumed as a practitioner at Templars and as a lecturer at the law school teaching corporate law. It was incredibly hard, right? You want to excel at the law firm because you want to grow. You also want to excel at the law school because people's lives depended on it, literally. If you don't teach well and people fail their bar finals, then you have contributed in destroying people's lives. And so both jobs were critically important for me. And so I had to decide very early on which one I was going to prioritize. Academia first and practice second, or practice first and academia second. And what I found was I was alternating them. So because the law school has a fixed timetable, 20 weeks of intense lectures and then revision, that period I'm 100% law school. I was doing my work at the law firm, but the law school had priority. And then once the law school is closed, or once I'm done with my 20 weeks of lectures, I was 100% the law firm, and I was giving it my all and sleeping in the office for days if that was necessary. And so if you choose to go the path that I have gone, it's going to be very difficult. It's not impossible. I've done it. Lots of people have done it. And you can do it too if you're honest with yourself that that's what you want, and you're willing to put in the work for it. Then the next step is making good decisions. And the ability to make good decisions depends on you being honest with everything we have spoken about previously. If you're honest with the answers to the questions you have asked yourself, if you have done the work in making yourself employable, then you will now be able to make good decisions based on the answers from your introspection, your understanding of the legal services market, and the advice from those before you, mentors and role models. And then you decide what you want to do. And that now helps you properly start your career in the space that fits you the most, the space where you are bound to grow, not in the space where you're going to struggle and get frustrated along the way, right? And you have to determine what's important to you, what you need to thrive, and who would give you that thing you need to thrive. And this is where how you deal with competing offers. I had offers from a number of law firms when I was ready to join a law firm in January 2016. And Templars pays incredibly well. But at the time, there was a law firm that paid higher than Templars to NYSC associates. And the difference was like 20K or so, 20 or 25K. And for me, poor boy coming from Jos, that was a lot of money. And so I was seriously considering taking that offer that gave me more money. But the problem was, I want to become a scholar practitioner, right? And I needed a firm that would give me the space to become that thing that I want to become. And so if I had followed the money, I wouldn't have gotten the flexibility that Templars gave me and the support that Templars gave me to become the person that I am today, right? So you need to understand exactly what you need to thrive and the person that will give that thing to you, or else you will make wrong decisions. And so how I sifted through all of those competing offers was, Templars gives me the best flexibility. Templars allows you to grow into your own skin. Templars gives you the space to become not just the lawyer that serves them, but the person that serves you. And that for me was what made the difference in choosing the firm to join. So you need to understand all of these things and be very honest with yourself. Now, I know that in many cases, you may not have competing offers. You just have one offer and then you have to take the offer and then join. If that is the situation you find yourself in, take the offer and make it work for you. Now, some workplaces can be very unhealthy, and no matter how hard you try to make the workplace work for you, it just wouldn't. Then that is where you now focus on building experience, gaining solid experience that will help you move to the next place, that will help you become the person that you need to be. So even if you find yourself in the early days having to take an offer, which is really not the best offer, but because it's the only offer that's available, and take it and focus squarely on building experience, building skills, building transferable, I think, gathering as many transferable skills as possible, building your network, so that experience would help you move to the place where you thrive. And then applications and interviews is very important. You need to be able to write a winning cover letter and a winning CV. And I say this because I was part of an employment committee when I was at a law firm, and would receive 500, 600 applications, right? And so if I take your cover letter and I start reading your cover letter and there's a typo in the first line, it's gone. If I take your cover letter and it's not properly aligned, it's gone. If I take your cover letter and it looks like it's a generic cover letter that was written for 20 law firms, it's gone, right? I need to see from your cover letter that you understand this firm, you understand where this firm is in the market, you understand the kind of work the firm does, and you understand what you are coming to do for the firm, right? So if your cover letter is generic, if it has errors, if it's not properly formatted, it knocks you off, because I have 600 to look at. And it's the same for your CV. If your CV is, typos, not properly formatted, doesn't really give me your strengths, is narrative instead of pointing out what you've done and the impact you've achieved, or does not have those key points on employability that I've mentioned above, of course it will go. It would go to the other side. So you need to be able to properly write a cover letter and properly write a CV. And there are lots of people that provide that service. They help you with drafting your cover letter, help you with drafting your CV. All you need to do is make sure that it is not generic. Law firms don't like generic cover letters. If I see a cover letter and you read through it and it's generic, it's a problem. If you're writing a cover letter, make sure the cover letter speaks to the law firm that you're applying to, and make sure that your CV is designed for the role you're applying to. Most people will be applying for NYSC roles at this point, so keep your CV about your legal skills, the experiences you've gotten, and the grades you've gotten at the law school. Some people don't write their grades in their CV. If you don't write your grades in your CV, well, our policy was if you don't see the grades, forget about it, right? It's better you write your grade and then make up for it in the experience you have if the grade is not good enough, as opposed to not writing the grade at all, right? So write the grades and make up for it in the experience you have. And importantly, start applying early. I got my job and I got my offers before bar final results came out, because I applied using my university results and the results of my snap tests at the law school. Those were the things on my CV: my university results, results of my snap tests, and my experience from internships. Those were the things on my CV, and a few articles I had written at the time. Those were the things on my CV that got me my jobs, right? I didn't wait till the bar final results came out and then I started applying with the final result I got at the bar final. No, I got the job before the bar final results came out, even though I was advised. I remember at one of the interviews, they asked me, what do you think you make at the law school? And I said, I'm going to make first class. And they said, okay, we're going to make you an offer, but if you don't make this first class, don't bother coming, right? So I felt I put myself in trouble, but thankfully, the results came through. Now, when you get into the law firm, it's important that you are consistent and that you are reliable. Consistency means those things you did that got you into the door, double that effort. So if you were X before you came in, you need to be 2X after you come in, right? So if you were working 3 hours before you came in, you need to be working 6 hours. Those things that you did that got you through the door, to demonstrate value and to make yourself grow within the firm, you need to do those things even more. You need to be able to add value to the work the firm does. And then you must be confident. Now, there are people who are incredibly smart, but are not confident. I remember when I joined the firm, with all my fancy results at the time, I would sit down during the office meetings and I won't say a word. I will do excellent work. I'll type it, I'll send it out, I won't say a word. And my mentor in the office called me and said, did you want to be known as the guy just sitting behind the computer doing great work? You must be able to talk about those things you know. If you're having a discussion at the office meeting, say what you know. Now, people would note that you don't have as much experience. And so even if what you're saying is purely theoretical, they would guide you by telling you the practical aspects of it. But the important point is they know you have the knowledge, right? And all they need to do is refine the knowledge. So you must be confident in what you know, not confident in nonsense. Because if you're confident and you're talking nonsense, they will forget you as quickly as possible, right? So when you join the firm, right, and you're confident in what you know, if you know there's office meeting on Tuesday, what are the transactions the office has been working on? What are the cases that have been in court in the past week? What were the issues that arose? Go and read about them. When the seniors are discussing it, you quickly just open and say, but I thought, right, that this and this and that, and then they will look at you and then they will guide you properly. The important thing is they know that this person has the knowledge, and what they often would co-opt you into the work. They often would co-opt you into the work, and that is where the second point comes in. You must be humble, and your default setting must be yes. When they co-opt you, they say, hey, Kenneth, that thing you were saying, can you help me do the research? Yes. But you must be very careful not to overburden yourself, that it starts affecting the quality of your work. If you're getting too much, that it starts affecting the quality of work, then you find a creative way to say, please, is it urgent? Can I do it tomorrow or next tomorrow? As opposed to saying a blanket no. Can you wait till next week? I have a full plate. And then when you start having this kind of conversation with your seniors, they will give you work and they will give you the space to do the work, right? Then to be able to do these things, to be able to add value in the law firm, you must consistently develop yourself, both personally and professionally. Continuing legal education. Mr. Tobina does more courses than even universities now. is that you can't keep up with Mr. Tobina's courses at this point. Initially, I used to try to keep up, but Mr. Tobina he has jetpacks, right? So you must try to make sure that continuing legal education is something that you take very seriously to continue evolving, continue developing your skills. And I remember in the very early days of my practice, I used to do courses, training sessions, whatever. Just do them to make sure that you're getting the skills that you need to develop in practice. And then you must also be a great person, because no matter how solid you are as a lawyer, if you're not a great guy or a great girl, they won't relate with you in the office. If you will feel like this person has too much coin, they won't relate with you in the office. So your legal knowledge is just as important as how good a person you are to your colleagues. Then ethics and professionalism is very important, because many lawyers today, because they want to make a quick buck, do things that are not necessarily ethical. You see lawyers advertising property on Instagram. You see, if we are employing you and we do a social media check, and we see that you have done property advertisement on social media, we will not employ you. If we see that you're arguing argument that does not make sense and that does not help anybody on Twitter, that does not concern you, it will affect you. So you need to understand the ethics of the profession. You need to, at all times, be of a character that is becoming of a legal practitioner at all times. It's called a noble profession for a reason, right? At all times, you must exude that nobility that's ascribed to legal practitioners. Forget about what our seniors are doing in election petition court. Focus on yourself, because you're just starting. Then you must be visible at the bar, visible in bar activities, because you don't know who will help you. When you say, God, please pick my call, you don't know who you will use to pick that call. So if you're visible in bar activities, I know how many opportunities I've personally gotten from just being visible in bar activities. The ones that it was easy. Starting out my career was extremely busy for me, because I was teaching, I was practicing, I was pursuing school, right? And so attending NBA meetings in Igbo was very difficult, but I used to go. And I built a number of relationships then that have helped my career today and has kept me active in the legal profession, right? And the relationship I have with Mr. Tobina, I did not work in Mr. Tobina's office. My relationship with Mr. Tobina is a great guy, MBA, right? Mr. Tobina today is one of the people I look up to in the profession. And how did that relationship start? Presence at the bar, right? There are many people like that, many of our seniors who, in one way or the other, have helped my career. And how did I meet them? Presence at the bar. So you need to be visible so that people will know that this person is visible and is available. Then again, extracurricular activities, be sociable. It's very important. You don't want to be sitting down in the office 24 hours doing legal work and they are playing lawyers league. You are sitting down in the office. When you are looking for somebody to write, reference letter for you, or to support your application for notary public, there will be nobody. So you need to, while you do the legal work, you also need to be sociable. If your office is having a get-together for a colleague that is leaving, a new colleague coming in, go there. I'm a very introverted person, but I made clear efforts to make sure that I attend all those things and be present there, be lively, talk to people, because it helps you also in the office. The strongest relationships are not built at work. They are built with work colleagues outside the work and then brought into the office, right? That way they help you grow in the office. Then mentorship. It's the last point here, but it's definitely not the least. It's incredible. What mentors can do for you is incredible. I used to say that I have been able to see far because many people have given me their shoulders to stand on, right? I am 8 years at the bar. In 8 years, I have practiced up to senior associate 4 at a tier 1 law firm. And senior associate is the highest level of senior associate you can get to. I've practiced up to senior associate 4 at a tier 1 law firm. I have done 2 master's degrees. I have a PhD. Well, I'll defend my PhD next week. I have done a fellowship, 2 fellowships actually. I've done a lot of things in 8 years. Why? I have people who, they are doing this thing. You have not called Kenneth, you have not started. Who is saying you have not called Kenneth? one of my mentors. The former DJ of Lagos campus, Mrs. Adebi, whatever you are doing, if you have not called Kenneth, Mr. Adebi will not support you. Mr. Adebi said, go and call Kenneth, put his name. Just put his name first. And when they put my name, I'll now be the one to say, I don't have time. Please, I can't do it. Then I say, you cannot do it, then they will remove my name. Now, all these things are experiences that I'm getting. This experience here, I've collected this experience here. My forever boss, Mr. Olumeja Apata, any small thing, Kenneth, they are doing this thing, come. And you say it's in pidgin, show. This is a mentor, this is a role model, right? I'll add it to my CV. Mr. Dobena has invited me for this one now. When I'm applying for Notary Public or for SAN or for Venture or whatever, and they say, what have you done for the bar? I'll say, hey, Mr. Dobena invited me to come and speak at the session for lawyers to be, right? I'm in Abidjan, I'm not in Nigeria. Mr. Tobena remembered that you need to call Kenneth. Why? He's a role model and he's interested in making sure that my career progresses, right? So when you have all these solid people everywhere, they may be lawyers, they need not be lawyers. I have people at the NESU, for example, they're not lawyers. Whatever you are doing, they'll come and call me. It's not as if I know it the most, but they know that I will commit the time and go and learn it and give something small to make sure that it progresses. So never underestimate the value of good mentors and role models. They open doors for you and they keep you accountable. They are the ones that make your career, whatever it becomes. Selafin, thank you for listening. I'm happy to take any questions you may have.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Okwa. That was very exhaustive, very exhaustive. A lot was packed into these 45 minutes. So I have a couple of questions here. Also, I mean, anybody in the audience who has questions, you can drop in the Q&A box or in the comment section, and then we'll take that. Chineku, you have your hand raised. Do you have a question? Chineku? Okay. So I'll just go straight to the questions I had here. So it does appear that when we have these kinds of conversations that we sort of like sometimes forget that there are people that may not have the means to get into the top tier law firms. And by this, I mean, I know you did touch on it, right? But by this, I mean, they may not have the grades one and they may not have the experiences. Because sometimes when we have these conversations, they are in the alternatives. So you either have the grades or you have maybe done a couple of internships or you have done a couple of projects to put in your CV to make up for the failure, your failure, whatever. But what happens in a situation where a person has neither? So perhaps because of maybe accident of birth or whatever, they were not able to excel academically, and then they didn't have the opportunities to do internships in top tier law firms or carry out projects. What would you advise such a person as they are leaving the law school? What are their chances? How do they make up for it?
Good. That's an excellent question, and I had, touched on it a bit without going into specific details. Now, self-awareness and market awareness is very important because that helps you with honesty to yourself, right? If you're not honest with yourself, you have a pass from law school, you don't have any internships, you don't have any projects, you've not done any of those things. You now can write an application to do Doma and Bello Sagi, or you write an application to Olani Wajayi. You and I know you're wasting your time. And that's because you are not being honest with yourself. And if you see here, I've said, if you've decided to go as a practitioner and go private, there are options, right? There's small practice, there's boutique. There are small practices, there are boutique practices. Small practices is anything from a one-man law firm to a law firm with maybe 5, 6, 10 employees, right? And that 10 employees would include the owner of the firm, the lawyers in the office, the secretary, and the litigation clerk. Right, so there may be 3, 4 lawyers in that office. And sometimes the best experience you might get may be in that small practice because it's you and the owner of the office. I keep saying that most of the skills I gained were from ICLE in JOS. But it was ICLE that will go to court and have a case and come back, come and do research. I will be reading law reports day after day, because it was just himself and myself. You'll be reading law reports day after day. So if you are honest with yourself, then you know exactly where your strengths are and focus on it and target it specifically, right? Now, I know that many people don't pay well in Nigeria, so going for a small practice, you may be shortchanged on the financial side, right? But it's what it is, right? When you get into that small practice, your focus now is building the experience. When you get into a small practice, the advantage of that kind of practice is your face time in court. You get quick face time in court. If you join Templars, before you get your first solo in court, you would have escorted seniors for like 6 months. But if you're in a small practice, you are going to go and argue bail application probably the next day after you join, because your principal has to be in 4 courts at the same time. So he tell you, go there, go and get me a stand down. Go there, go and argue this motion. Just adopt it. You get face time in court very quickly. So your job at that point is to start building experience. Let other people in court feel your presence, so that when a senior advocate has a junior in court, and the senior advocate has argued this case and gone, or maybe the junior is in court, and they see you perform in court, tomorrow when you apply to that senior advocate's office, when that junior sees your application, say, I know this guy. I remember this guy from court. And I have friends like that. I have a friend now who is at Polusoro. He didn't have the best of grades. He didn't do internships. That's more practice. Building. When he had built a solid litigation portfolio, Polusoro, right? So if you start out that badly, how you start is not how you will end. What determines how you end is what you do between where you started from and where you ended at. It's your attitude and honesty to yourself. So it doesn't mean that you are effectively done for.
All right. Thank you so much, sir. And just to piggyback on that, so in instances where you start with a boutique law firm or a small law firm, you often notice that they may not have the exposure that you require. They may not have the big transactions, and then some small firms just do litigation. So for somebody that wants to do transactions, how do you transition from a firm that just does pure litigation, and you want to get into maybe an Olaniwu, and you want to get into their finance department, but with the experiences you've been able to gather due to the fact that you started with a small law firm has just been litigation, how do you make the transition? And secondly, so people in other jurisdictions that are not Lagos, say someone in Enugu or someone in Port Harcourt who may have not had access to big transactions, and by reason of that may not have built the expertise or the experience to fit into top tier law firms, how can such a person transition?
Now, to be fair, it's difficult. There are few people who have done it, right? Mm-hmm. If you start out in disputes and do disputes for 6 years, it will be very difficult for anybody to take you seriously if you say you want to come and do finance. In fact, even within the same firm, if you started out in a disputes practice, you've done it for a number of years, you now say you want to come and do finance, nobody will take you seriously because you don't have the experience to back it up, right? It's worse for you if you're practicing up country, right? And by up country, I mean anywhere that is not Lagos or Port Harcourt. Abuja is included in this up country. Now, if you're practicing up country and then you want to come to Lagos or Port Harcourt and you want to do commercial practice at that level, it will be very difficult for people to take you seriously, particularly if you have 3-4 years of experience under your belt, because that 3-4 years of experience is litigation experience, right? Now, what I've seen people do is that they try to use academic studies to plug the gap. Now, I've seen people try to pursue finance-related postgraduate degrees. It's been difficult. I know of a particular person who did disputes for a while and then went to Oxford, no less, to take finance-related courses and came back. They gave the person offer, but it was still disputes, right? So I've seen a few people have successfully done that and then transitioned. A few people have done disputes 5, 6, 7, 8 years and become very good at disputes. They started their own practice, right? And then when they start their own practice, they partner up with people who plug the finance gap and then join those people in the finance practice, right? And then start building competence in that space. And I know a number of people who have done that. And on small deals, these deals, you see them because they're gaining the experience. Now, if those people decide to close their shops and join a tier one law firm, they now have the experience under their belt. So the two things I've seen people do that has worked is some people, and quite rarely actually, have tried to use academics to plug the gap and then now look for roles in the finance space, sometimes starting as in-house in a bank or starting in-house in one of these securities firms in Lagos, right? They do litigation for a number of years, go and do a master's in corporate finance in Unilag or Babcock or Jos or wherever or abroad, and then come back and join in-house in a bank, right? Join in-house in a securities firm and start building that experience. And then from there now hop back into a law firm. Some others have built their litigation experience solid, started their own law firms, and they're still looking for, oh, this person is doing seed financing here. This person is doing seed financing here. This person is incorporating a CAC with a 10 million share cap plus no tap plus NIPC plus this plus that because he has one foreign partner there. Start building. And after a while, they're able to use that to pivot and then come in. And then another thing people have done recently is use these emerging spaces, right? Like intellectual property. Intellectual property is not emerging, but it has taken new ramifications, right? That now have severe implications for most of the financings we do. Because when you're discussing financing these days, you're discussing a huge intellectual property portfolio. And you have some people who have only done disputes, but they have trained themselves in IP. They've trained themselves in media and entertainment. They've trained themselves in all these things that you call emerging areas, right? And then you find that they have such a specialist knowledge that even though they will not advise on the facility agreement or your lending instruments, they will advise you clearly and excellently on that part that has to do with the intellectual property portfolio, which for most early stage companies is the bulk of the assets that they have, right? So such people have also been able to join top-rated law firms just using that specialist knowledge that they have. So the options are open, and it's something that we can talk more carefully about if you have that specific problem.
All right, thank you so much. So I just have two questions and then we'll wrap it up. So this question is because you mentioned people who may not have interest in practicing law, as it were. So I do know that one of the things people come to realize at the law school is whether they want to practice or not. Because when you see all of that, you are sure that you want to practice or not. But so my question is in two phases. We are considering two types of people. One, somebody who is very good at law, at studying law, and then maybe in the early stages of their career, they are very good at it, and they may even actually enjoy practicing law, but they also have other interests or other passions that they want to also explore. What would your advice be to this person as regards integrating this passion or maybe transitioning? And then second of all, someone who is at the law school now who thinks, oh, I'm not interested in this law thing again, right? What would be your advice to the person to be sure that they're not making a huge mistake, especially as they may not have had the experience to back up how they feel about the practice of law?
Answering the second question first, whatever you do, your NYSC, practice law. Because that is where you decide for yourself whether law is for you or is not for you. Even if you want to go into the academia, you want to do something else, that NYSC year, find a way to practice law. Public, private, big, small, wherever, practice law. Because that 1 year would reveal a lot to you about yourself that you didn't know, right? And if law is not for you, at the end of that 1 year, you'll be able to confidently tell yourself, it's not my business, right? And then you start looking for what your interests are. Now, that's the answer to the second question. That first year of practice after leaving law school is important. I'm not a big fan of mandatory pupillage, but that one, it's mandatory. You must do it for yourself, and it's for you. You must do it for you because that will help you answer the question whether this law thing is for you or is not for you. Now, to the first question, you have other interests. Law is good. You may or may not excel at it, but the only way you'll be happy in this law thing is if you're able to incorporate those other interests. I have first-hand experience of it. That's my wife. I met my wife in law school, we're classmates, right? And she was sitting 2 or 3 people behind me in the bar finance. And from the day I met her, I know that this law, she just wants to pass this law school and pass it and just move on with her life. My wife's interest is in people management. My wife likes working with people. And so I said, look, just try, practice small. She said she wants to go and do postgraduate studies. She went to do postgraduate studies in oil and gas. Still didn't click, right? And I said, try and practice first. Let's see if we practice. Let's see if we do. She went to Falana. Stayed in Falana for, I think, over a year or so. I can't remember. I said, it's not for her. I said, okay, in-house, try in-house. She went to the bank. She started liking in-house because in-house, you have the legal aspects of the work, and then you have the people management, right? Because lawyers in-house also deal with admin matters and all of that. And so she started liking the people management aspect of it. And when we saw that, we said, oh, we found it. No, you don't like law, right? You like existing within a space that law is practiced, but you want to deal more with people. And that was how we're now able to find her the career that best suits her as a practice manager in a firm. So she's not going to court. She's not going to come and argue your law with you. She's managing the lawyers in the office, right? So found her a practice manager role. So you need to, if you're not sure, if you have tried to answer all these questions and you're not sure, then you have to use practical experience. If A does not work, try B. If B does not work, try C. If C does not work, by the time you finish trying A, B, C, D, E, you would have figured out, oh, it's law plus. I have a friend that I, do small practice with. He is a comedian. He is I won't mention his name because everybody knows him. He's a comedian. He's an MC. He does all those things. That is the only way he endures law. He's an excellent lawyer. Anything IP, media, and entertainment, he's great at it. But if you keep him down for 5 hours, you are boring him. Over the weekends, he unwinds by going to do MC, do comedy skits, this and that. Corporate professional, not one that affects or that is demeaning to the profession, right? He does that, and he has figured out that that is what works for him. So you need to be honest with yourself. Try out a few options and see what works best for you, and find a way to integrate it properly into the profession. But note that it is not everything you can integrate. We have our rules of professional conduct. If what you like is selling tomato in the market by yourself, it won't work with the practice of law because the rules expressly prohibit that. If what you like is something that won't work with our rules, then it becomes a problem. But if it's something that would work with our rules, then you can definitely integrate it or do that on your spare time while you practice law.
All right, sir. So the last question is, I remember during the application season after law school and the application season, it's a different set of anxiety that you go through when you're applying, and then you get responses, and then you see that there are people who are getting offers and you're not getting offers. There are people who are getting interviews and you're not getting interviews. Nobody is sending you emails to come and interview, or you get like a slew of rejections back to back to back. So what would be your advice to people? Because I understand at the moment you have advice that it's beneficial to start applying before you even finish your bar finals. So how do you manage doing perhaps badly at an interview and then you have an exam in 2 weeks? Or maybe even after the bar finals, how do you deal with all the things that come with applying for a job and interviewing for a job and not getting what you want?
There's a hidden question, something you said, and Toby had dealt with that. Under no circumstance should you go into the bar final course with fear. Whatever has happened in your life, interviews, non-interviews, a relative died, when you're entering that hall, forget about it. If you enter that hall with fear, passing bar finals, the first step to passing bar finals, I always say this, is taking and understanding instructions. The instructions before you are the questions. Do X, do Y, do Z. If you do not understand that you have to do X, Y, and Z, you will fail, right? You need to go into that hall with a clear head. So even if, as you're walking in, you got an email, we have rejected you, you are an Olodo, forget about it as you enter that hall, or else you will fail the exam, or you won't perform as well as you should have. Now, having said that, I would advise you start applying to the law firms now, right? If you wait till after bar finals, you are gambling. I went to the law school to be the best. By God's grace, I finished from the law school as the best. But before I was told that I was the best, any one of my classmates could have been the best, right? I was not going to wait for law school exam to come out, and then people will have first class, and me now, not now make the first class, then I'll now be competing with people that had first class. No, 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 no. I pick my battles, I determine the battlefield. So what do I have now? What I have my unit just result, 2-1, right? I have a Dean's Honor Certificate, I kept it. I have snap test from Lagos campus, I did well. He gave me a certificate, I kept it. I arranged them on my CV, right? So what else do I have? I did internship here, I did internship there, I arranged it, right? What else do I wrote one article, the article did not make sense like that. I put it inside. By the time I finished arranging it, I wrote cover letter. I told Mr. Debbie, my mentor, I need reference letter. She wrote reference letter. I sent out applications. While others were bothering themselves about bar finance, me, I was fighting the next battle, right? Because now when the results come out now, I'll now make 2-1. Somebody will now deposit first class. They won't look at my 2-1 now. So me, I sent the applications. I started getting, immediately we finished bar final exams. Those that wanted to talk to me started talking to me, right? Templars made me an offer 2 weeks before bar final results came out. When the bar final results now came out, so when the result was now good, I said, hey, no problem, we're still fine. Other law firms started calling, but you've made up your mind. Now, if something had gone wrong and I didn't make the result I made at bar finals, should I have my job? I have my job now. I'm gonna start my job, right? So please start applying now. Don't wait till after the bar finals results have come out because you're not sure. Even if you give your best, there's still that element of uncertainty. Use what you have now to start competing. If you send what you have now and no law firm calls you, no problem. When bar final results come, you have second round, right? You can try again, right? So it helps you make sure that you're in the game all through. Please send your applications now if you have the time to prepare them because it's time consuming to send an application. But try and send applications now. If nothing comes out of it, you can participate in the next round, which is after bar finals. But this gives you an opportunity to get into the door when the competition is not yet as intense. That's what I did. Luckily for me, I made the result. But what would have happened if I had not made that result? So I didn't want to gamble. So I made sure that I put in my applications when the competition was less intense to better my chances. And that's what I did. So please, you can try that also.
All right. So Mr. Oko, so I do see there are questions in the chat box. So I don't know if you could
looking at them.
spare us a few minutes to take them. So I see there's a question about age. Someone who is 29 years old, how can they get into top-tier law firms? Is that a hindrance? So we have a question, somebody who wants to work in an international organization, considering your expertise and how you've been able to transition, what will your advice be to such a person? Yes.
Okay.
So perhaps you could start with that. Just
29 years old, if you're 29 and you're going to a law firm, they will be looking at you for experience. The first thing you can do is, depending on when you started school, because if there's a gap in your CV, they would flag it. It's one of the things people look out for in CVs. If you started school late, then that's a different thing, right? But if you started school early and you're 29 being called to the bar, it means something happened in between. And they would want to understand what that experience is about. I have a friend who studied English. After studying English, worked for a bit, decided to study law, right? But the skills he got from studying English and working in that space were transferable skills, because what does a lawyer do? A lawyer writes a lot. A lawyer speaks a lot, right? So it's your ability to convert those skills that you have. It will be problematic if you're 29 and there's no experience. Then it becomes a hard sell. But if there's experience there, convert that experience to experience that can work for the law firm, even if it was in marketing, right? Because lawyers market, even though they say we should not market, but we know how we package ourselves and market. So whatever the experience is, there must be experience there. It becomes problematic if there's no experience. So try and figure out what that experience is and then market it in a way that serves the needs of the law firm. Then somebody is saying mentorship. There is private established relationship with the people whom you want to be mentored by. How do you bring up the topic with them? Also, do you have to physically be in touch with cut-off points? I'm glad you mentioned Akwa Ibom because my favorite mentee, I think she's from Akwa Ibom, not even sure. And I've met her just once, but I've mentored her from her 200 level. She's at Olaniwu now, and she made first class in uni, first class in law school. And it's because she's an excellent mentee, right? Now, if you want somebody to mentor you, you don't need to have, it's best when you have some sort of relationship with them. Maybe they were your teacher, or you had worked with them before and they know you personally. But sometimes, and most of my mentees, to be honest, sent me messages on LinkedIn, right? And oh, blah, 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 I'd like you to mentor me. Or a third party, like this girl in question, somebody referred her. Or like, okay, I have a work plan. And then we spoke. I said, this one has a good head on her head, right? And then she kept made, I'm busy. Mentors will not be checking up on mentees. Mentees should be coming to the mentor to report. I don't wait for my mentors to come and check up on me. After a while, I say, this is what I've been up to, right? I still do that. This is what I've been up to. So if you've spoken to somebody on LinkedIn, on Instagram, wherever, and you said, I'd like you to be my mentor, and my default answer is usually yes, because you're the one that determines the kind of mentorship relationship we would have. If I tell you, yes, I can be your mentor, and 6 months after I've not heard from you, I'm not your mentor again now, right? If I tell you, yes, I'll be your mentor, and then you follow up with, oh, there's this internship opportunity, I'd like to apply for it. I'm like, great, let me help you. Let's see how we can do it. Oh, there's this thing coming up, I'd like to, well, I've written this essay, there's this topic, what's your view on this? Noting that your mentor is also busy and not bugging them with too many questions, and realizing that sometimes 2 weeks may pass before they respond to your message, but they will respond if they're really interested in your proof. So you don't need to have a personal relationship with the person, right? Just speak to the person. If the person answers positively, then make yourself accountable to that person. This girl in question, I'll be on my own. She'll tell me she has done this, she's going for this moot, she's doing this. I found myself sponsoring moots that I didn't know anything about because I was interested in her group, because she made me interested in her group, and she's doing excellently well, and I couldn't be prouder. So please, yes, virtual mentorships work, and they work very well, because I only speak to her on WhatsApp, and I think I've met her just once over, I think 6 or 7 years now. I think I met her just once, and she's doing very well. I've applied several firms and only 2 reached back. My CV ticked the boxes of the things you've mentioned, so I can't really figure out what went wrong. Are there other factors? Get somebody else to read your CV. My father used to advise me. He said, when you've written a document, get someone else to read it, because if you're proofreading it, you'll be reading what you think you wrote, not what you actually wrote. So get someone else to look at your CV. There may be typos, there may be some things wrong, or your CV just does not speak to the needs of the law firm at that part, or the law firms at that particular time, or the law firms are not hiring. And if a law firm is not in hiring season, free advice, sending your CV to that HR email is a waste of time, because they won't read it. If a law firm is in hiring season, they are checking their HR emails. If you're not in hiring season, they're not checking, right? So if you're applying to a law firm off cycle, and around this time is off cycle, don't do HR email. Which partner works in the space you are looking for? Find the email of the HR person, not the HR@sosofirm.com. The person's email, right? And send your CV straight to the person, and copy the partners in the space you're copying, you're applying to. But if your application is rubbish, you might be blacklisted, because once they see your name, they'll say. So if you're going to do that, understand the risk you're taking, right? And take that risk with your full chest. I would like to know if there's only law firms you can apply to earlier, or you can apply to none. I mentioned this earlier. I said you can apply to a lot of places, private, in-house, depending on the sector, oil and gas, real estate, media and entertainment. You can go public, Ministry of Justice, or any ministry. You can go into the executive or the legislature. So there are lots of options for you. What advice do you give someone who has never interned in a law firm and is about going for law school this year? You can start interning now. You definitely can start interning now. You have, through the law school, there's time between bar final exams, and when your results are released. That's time for internship. I did an internship in that period. That's when I entered at some Cooper Partners, right? So anytime you have, you can go and intern. There's nothing that says you can't intern now. Good evening, sir. What advice can you give someone who has never entered a law firm? Okay, that's fine. Who looks forward to work at an international organization? International
Yes.
organizations want a lot of experience, right? I've always wanted to work at an international organization. And I remember the first time I got an interview with the IMF in 2017. The person who interviewed me, I created a mentorship relationship with that guy. He's Brazilian. And he said, yeah, you got an interview because your CV is impressive. But I'll be honest with you, we are going to give this to somebody who has more experience. This was for an internship at the IMF. So we're going to give this to somebody who has more experience. Go and build the experience. When you build the experience, come back, right? And that's what I did, right? So if you're looking to work at an international organization, your focus now is what kind of international organization? IFC, you need to build private sector financing experience, very solid 4, 5, 6 years of private sector financial experience for IFC. And then you must have a master's degree that is related. International organizations don't regard your first degree. They want a master's degree. That's minimum. It's minimum. If you don't have a master's degree, don't bother. For a substantive role at these organizations, you must have a master's degree. So you must have a master's degree in that space, so related field, and then you must have solid experience or they won't talk to you. And you see there that these are the things we're looking for. I think that's the last question.
Yes, I think we've covered it. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time, Mr. Okwo. And so I believe people can reach out to you if they want to have this conversation offline, if they have any specific questions they have. I suppose they can.
Yes, I have put my contact info.
All right. Thank you so much. So we'll just have Mr. Erojikwe do some closing remarks, and then we'll call it quits. Thank you so much. And Mr. Tobena, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chizoma. I'll just say to the students who've listened to Kenneth, he's put out his very short CV on the screen for a few minutes. I'll ask you to aspire to that. Don't be intimidated. because when you see cantab, it's a serious matter. Thank you very much, Kenneth, for a brilliant presentation. Thank you very much, Oladepo. I mean, Kenneth, I didn't expect anything less. You took it as you take everything. Very serious, very well delivered, fantastic presentation. I picked up a few tips myself. Hopefully, I have. Who knows? I might be looking for employment somewhere. So I now know how to prepare my CV better. But what a fantastic presentation, and thank you for sparing the time. I just want to make the point that all those you see who have come here have come at no cost to the MBA, at no cost to anybody. It's purely pro bono, and I am so grateful for this kindness. Kenneth, you owe me one or two things. I always call you to help. And you talked a lot about mentorship. I just want to say to everybody on the session that one of the things that worries me about Nigeria or our educational system is that we don't have any structured post-qualification educational regime. We don't have pupilages, we don't have training contracts, we don't even have a well-choreographed CPD post-qualification regime. And this is something we must do something about. But at the MBA Institute of Continuing Legal Education, we're doing quite a bit in terms of mentorship, and we're trying to do it within various competency frameworks so that people actually know what they're getting into. So it's more like a structured mentorship. And I'm sure Kenneth would oblige us and will be one of the mentors that we're going to assign mentees to. So for those of you who are coming up, there are forms in circulation at the moment. I'll ask Chineku to put that out too, so that you guys can also apply. I don't think there's anything wrong with you applying now. So it's been a brilliant session. I thank all those who have contributed to the success of this series. Oji, Chukoi, Joshua Chizoma, Rex, Owadoku, Ufoma, Onyechi, Chijoke, Ukomadu, Susan, Omer, Abobi Naya, Kosio Sele, and the entire team. And I thank you, Kenneth, for being here once again. Oladepo, thank you for being here throughout. Sarah Ajijola of NBA-ICLE, and Wale Efuope of the IT team. Thank you very much. And thank you to all those who have taken time to participate. I hope you found it useful. For those who want to go back and watch what we've done, that we have a YouTube channel, NBA-ICLE, where all our training materials are stored for your use. So thank you very much. We don't want to have any lawyer left behind. God bless you all. And I'll speak to you guys whenever I see you. Take care. Bye-bye. Good night.
Good night. Bye-bye, sir.